welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good yourself.
It's been good. It's been good as of late.
Oh, it's good to hear. It's good to hear. What do you want to start off with? What hockey news is most relevant for us to start with?
I figure we
Do
should
we want to
probably
start happy, sad? Which way do we
we'll
want to,
pro
which way do we want
I
to go?
imagine as to not create too much of a wave in the middle, we'll get the heavy stuff out of the way first.
All right. Yeah, it's a good call. Do you want to break it down or
I guess I'll do one, you do the other. Can't believe there's two since we've done a last
yeah.
episode.
One
But
just as of an hour ago, so
yeah,
or 2 hours ago, just recently.
yeah, very recently came out. Uh, Buffalo Sabres announcing legend Rick Jeanneret passed away earlier today as of recording. Absolutely tragic. Dude was one of the most iconic voices in hockey, and he had just retired. I believe it was off season. So that really sucks. Right when Buffalo's getting good too. Like that that sucks that he's not going to be able to see how good this team is going to get in as soon as next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, dedicated. Uh, well, I mean, whatever you want to put it, pretty much all his time into the Buffalo Sabres organization for years and whatnot, and especially through a lot of hard times and whatnot. And yeah, like there's not a whole lot to say. It's just a really tough time for Buffalo. It's a legend of their franchise. It's even though he wasn't currently a part of the organization, he was always going to be. So it's just a huge blow for the organization and the city of Buffalo entirely.
Yeah, yeah. Thoughts out to his close family. That really is tragic.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then the other one, Toronto Maple Leafs prospect Rodion Amirov passed away a couple days ago due to the complications of what was it, a brain tumor he had?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the specifics, but I just know that it was due to the brain tumor that he was diagnosed with, I believe,
Yeah.
around 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, not that you know, not super long after he was drafted 15th overall by the Maple Leafs, he was diagnosed with this news. He still remained kept like from what everybody's been saying, he still kept a positive attitude. Um, the whole time was still committed and had the dream and hope of making the Maple Leafs and being part of their team next year. Um, just super sad. A great young player gone way too soon, and you know,
Yeah,
it's more like, and we talked about the other day. We said it's more than, um, this is bigger than just hockey. Like this is a life of a young man who still has his whole life ahead of him, but I think a lot of people had him pegged to be a starter for the Maple Leafs next year. He had so much skill and talent. He didn't play last year over in the KHL just due to everything kind of going on. Um, but it's just tough.
yeah,
You never like seeing stuff like this, and you always want to see these young guys overcome these just terrible obstacles they're set up with, and it's just tough to see when you don't get um the right result or the happy ending. Sometimes things just go this way, and it's an unfortunate part of life, really.
yeah. It's absolutely brutal. I mean, he wasn't constantly online from what I know or anything like that, but every once in a while he would give an update, and every single time It was whether it was his condition has stayed the same, improved, or gotten worse. It was always this is if it was bad news, it was always a this is a minor setback, and it was always a when I get better, not if. So
Yeah,
it
exactly.
whenever somebody's ill in that way, you it always feels good to see them keep a positive attitude, and it seems like he never lost that, and so it really is a
Yeah.
tragic scenario.
And that tells you a lot about a guy right there, going through something like this and just constantly being able to, keep a positive attitude, positive outlook on life and all that. Like that just tells you all you need to know about the guy, and it's just just a huge loss for the entire hockey world in general.
Yeah, not to mention getting diagnosed with something as severe as a brain tumor during like while COVID's going on, or at the very least in a post-COVID world. Like
Yeah.
that's it would be very easy to fall into some sort of depression or just be down on yourself about it. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly right.
he never seemed to fall victim to that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really too bad. And again, thoughts are with Rodion's family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the tough news to kind of just get out of the way. Now we just got to try and build back some of
Yeah,
the energy and um,
yeah. I think
excitement
it's
back into this
often important
episode.
to get that kind of stuff out of the way at the start, and address it first, because even if it is a bit somber news, it's kind of regardless of what goes on in the league, it's always the biggest news.
Yeah.
Like that, like you said, it transcends the sport.
Yeah, exactly right. Um, so other news, last episode we kind of teased that we are going to go through that list that kind of poll by fans for the top goalies and whatnot. I think we're kind of going to go back more to that towards the tail end of this once we kind of rattle through some of the other major news. There's not a whole lot of major news really going on in the league at this time. But we got a few here. I believe it just came out today, if I'm not mistaken. That Jonathan Toews said he is going to take off. He's not retiring, but he's taking this upcoming season off from hockey, or at least
Did he
from
say
playing in the
entire
NHL.
upcoming season, or did he just say sometime?
He's taking this entire upcoming season off. And he said his hope is and plan is to return to the league the following year. So the 2024-25 season is when
Yeah.
he's aiming to get back into the NHL and find another team to sign with and play with moving forward.
Yeah, and I do believe he cited long COVID as part of a reason for that. That he's been,
Yeah.
he's been really struggling with that the past season or two. And
Well,
I mean, trying to be an elite athlete,
yeah.
having your lungs and your respiratory system hampered, like that's got to make it so much harder.
Yeah. Well, speaking of long-term COVID, the next thing I want to transition to for news was Brandon Sutter is making a return to the NHL after taking 2 years off due to long-term COVID issues. He's signing a trial contract with the Edmonton Oilers in hopes of landing a real contract and getting back into the league. And that's awesome to see him. Because again, the symptoms and severities of long-term COVID can really do a number on a player. And so to see him, make that journey back to the NHL, get an opportunity. And not only that, he can be a very, very effective bottom six player for the Oilers. If things go right during training camp and preseason, he could, be a great addition for the Oilers, probably making league minimum, and whatnot. But like that would be, awesome to see, Sutter get back into the league. Not only that, but seeing what he can bring to the Oilers, who are desperate for, that strong depth.
Yeah, we definitely saw that in this past off season, or this past postseason rather. They sorely need depth that can keep up. Like when you have Draisaitl scoring, what was it, 13 goals in 12 games, or or 14 and 13, and you got McDavid scoring at a almost 2 point per game pace. Like you all you need is a bit of depth scoring, and
Yeah.
you're pretty hard to stop.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I really hope it goes well for him. Just because I've always been a fan of his game and the way he plays, and one of the biggest things is always just no one will ever understand the feeling unless they're playing in the NHL or whatever professional league they're in. But I gotta imagine for players like that, it's just so hard when it's you kind of got to step away from the game, for a couple years, or maybe even just retire altogether, based on an illness or injuries that just stack up or out of your control. So I got to imagine that this is huge for him to be able to be like, hey, I've taken the 2 years off. I'm feeling better. I've overcome this. I'm ready to get back and keep playing. And when I'm done playing, it's going to be on my terms, not due to doctors telling me this, or just my body not being able to, based on something that's out of his control. So I got to imagine that's a great feeling for him, and I feel like he's going to come in just guns blazing, doing anything he can, and to earn that contract.
Yeah, and it certainly wouldn't be the first time we saw a player absolutely will themselves onto a roster. So that'd be a good story. That'd be fun to see.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Um, Next biggest one, we kind of talked about it. I don't know when we talked about it, but we did kind of brush around the idea due to Bergeron retiring that David Krejci is now officially retired again from the NHL now. So that's just two big blows to Boston there, and we knew that this retirement was coming. We talked about how last year was kind of call it the last dance or whatever you want. With Krejci and Bergeron signing those 1-year deals for cheap. They did what they had to do to allow Boston to put together the best possible team to go on one final run. Best regular season in NHL history, if you want to call it that. And
It's pretty hard
came
not to,
short in the playoffs
as well.
I mean, if you're a Tampa fan, maybe you view it differently, but
Well, so I did before. I always liked arguing that Tampa had the best regular season, but they were like tied in wins with both I believe it was in the 70s. I think it was 73, 74, if I'm not mistaken, Canadians. And then the 97, 98, or some late 90s Red Wings. And all three of those teams had 62 wins. And so they were all like right close. And then the Bruins didn't just meet that, but they went to like 65, I believe, or 64. So it's
something
they kind of separated from the pack a little bit. It's hard to argue as much as I hate it.
Yeah, but and it's a huge blow for them. Like now it's and I always believe, I think the biggest thing is having that good of a regular season. Is probably good as it feels for the players, the fans, coaches, management, everything. I think it's such a curse because I think you get to that, halfway point of the season pretty much, and Boston, they knew they were at least in the playoffs. President's Trophy was pretty much a guarantee, if they just keep doing what they're doing. And I think they just felt too relaxed and too safe getting to the playoffs. Whereas then, they go up against Florida, who, had to fight tooth and nail from the trade deadline on to get into the playoffs, and they had that momentum. They were rolling. They were, every night was basically do or die for them. And I think, for Boston, as good as their team was and all that talent, I think just felt a little too safe. And so, they go out first round, and now you lose Bergeron and Krejci. You don't have, they had good center depth, but it was relative to where those guys needed to play. They really don't have a legitimate first line or second line center in my eyes. And so it makes you wonder if they, look for trade options to try and help fill those voids, if they're just going to, run with the guys they have, if they're going to give young guys an opportunity to take those spots, it really puts them in a bit of a tricky situation. Such a tough, not only tough division, a tough conference that they're in all around.
Yeah, it's having Pavel Zacha as your number one center going into the season. It's really tough, and all of a sudden they're looking like a really good trade partner if Calgary is still looking to trade Elias Lindholm instead of extending him if he doesn't want that. You know,
Yeah,
obviously Boston loves their number one two-way center. Uh, so
yeah.
we might see that in the coming year.
Yeah, I think if they're going to go the trade route, I think the biggest part of it obviously depends on guys whether they're willing to sign extension, or if they do, or if they make it clear they want out. But I think the most realistic options for Boston going out and getting someone to fill that void would be either Elias Lindholm or Mark Scheifele are the two that I think make the most sense for Boston.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously it's incredibly difficult to get a number one center or at least somebody who can be argued to be that caliber. So it's really got to be a guy most likely on an expiring contract or a team that's just absolutely having a fire sale.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know I saw some people online talking about the idea of Logan Couture to the Bruins,
Yeah,
but
I don't see that.
yeah, I think his contract might be a bit too long for
Not only
that.
that, but Couture's made it very clear constantly, even going through the rebuild. Anytime he's asked, he's never, kind of, you know, f- turning people's heads like leaning this way or this way. He's always definitive. Anytime he's asked about his future in the league, it's
It's in
staying in
San
San
Jose.
Jose. Like it's
Yeah,
it's never even the option of like, we'll see what happens, or we'll get to this point and see where we're at. Like it's always just he's committed to being there. He says he wants to, help the team out through the rebuild, ride it out, and he wants to come out with them on the other side through it. So, I think yeah, and even at the trade deadline last year, it came out that teams inquired about him and whatnot, but there was never any traction just because I think Couture's got
a
a
three-team
three
trade
team.
list, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think
So
even
he
if,
have to want to go there.
yeah, and I think even if one of those three teams put in like a decent offer, and the Sharks could say yes because they don't even have to ask Couture because that's one of the three teams on his list. I don't think they would, because I think they would still ask him like, hey, you're our captain, you've been here for years on end and whatnot, and I think they would tell him, be like, hey, we got an offer, yeah, and it's kind of his call, and I think he would say no. I
Yeah.
think
Well, so
he's just one of those guys that isn't going anywhere and has no problem
staying with
making
the
it
same
known.
team is more important than going and cup chasing, which is incredibly admirable.
Exactly.
You love to have a guy like that on your team, especially the captain.
And not, yeah, and
Um,
not only that, but it's like, even looking at it now, just based off the Sharks prospect pool, like next year gonna be awful. Like unless Mackenzie Blackwood is all of a sudden um just completely turns everything in his career around based on the trajectory it's been going. And with the defense, the Sharks are going to be awful. You know, if they win the lottery, or say they don't, but they still finish at the bottom, they get a top 3 pick.
yeah, you get even a
I could
top
see them.
five pick
I
that
could
can
see them
turn a
having
franchise around.
a really good team going into next year. And so I think Couture kind of can also see that and be like, I don't. It's not necessarily as doom and gloom as people are making it out to be. Like next year will be tough, but I think they're kind of starting to see that there could be light at the end of the
The
tunnel, and it may
exactly.
not be as because I think people don't realize that really the Sharks have kind of been going through this rebuild for I would say at least 3 seasons now.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean they haven't been one of those teams that's literally tear everything down. All your guys, that have been there for years, and those of your guys are gone. Like they didn't take that road, like other teams did, and but they still been going through a rebuild for a while. So it's people are saying like, oh, they're a good 5 or 6 years away. I call me biased for one. I really don't believe that. Like I think
No.
it could definitely be turned around by as early as next season. Just based on the guys that they have right now who are locked in and committed, and the guys that are, ready to come up. And then, next year, X player you get, I'm assuming in the top five, Will Smith and maybe like a Quentin Musty or some are all on the team. Yeah, they could be a very, not a good, like not a very good team, but they could be at least like a team sniffing around a wild card spot in 2 years' time.
Yeah, I don't know about as soon as next season. It definitely could happen. Stranger things have
Depends
happened,
on
but in
what
2 to 3 years,
they
I would
get.
be shocked if they're still this bad. I
Yeah,
would
the
be
biggest
shocked
thing
if
for
they hadn't
next year
improved a
is,
decent amount.
yeah, is really just, what they get at the draft next year, and then all these ex players like we talked about, the Duclair, the Ruda, the Hoffman, the Granlund, what happens with them? Um, my assumption is at least three of those four get flipped for something. I think the one that they would probably keep would be Ruda, just because the defense is
Yeah,
awful. Like we're looking at it logistically, Ruda very well could be the Sharks' number one defenseman next year. I'd probably still put him as their number two. So I don't see him being moved. But the other
yeah,
three guys, whether it's for players who can be impact players next year, or for draft picks of guys that can be third or fourth liners maybe. Um, just lots of options. So,
yeah. Not to
but
mention keeping
that's why I
Ruda
don't
would
think
definitely help.
Kachuk will ever go.
Yeah, I think help keeping a guy like Ruda as well. He's just a good shutdown defenseman, so it definitely increases your chances of being able to get a decent return for a goaltender if you end up wanting to flip any of the goalies they have. Because I know it seems like San Jose every year is trading one, two, or three goalies
Their
at
goal
one point in the
it's
season or another.
it's a carousel. It's like you
Yeah,
hop on for one season, at the end of the season you hop off and you're somewhere else. Um, Also with Jan Ruda, rumor has it that he will get a chance. I don't know if it's going to be for the top power play unit or the second, but it sounds like he's one of the guys that is going to get the first crack at being one of their defensemen on the power play next season.
really, that's interesting.
Back when where what is he? Is he Czech? I think.
Uh, I believe so. I
I'll
can
look it up.
definitely, yeah, but I believe so.
Yeah,
Um,
so when he came over, yeah, he is Czech. So when he played over in the Czech league before coming to the NHL, he was actually on the power play for his team. Like he was one of the guys on the back end of the power play. So he's
right.
got that experience already doing it. He's a right-handed
Hmm.
shot, which like is pretty much crucial for the Sharks' top power play unit, because you've got Couture,
Yeah,
not
it
Meyer
often
now.
is for
That'll
most
be
teams, power
replaced
plays.
by Eklund, Hurdle, and whatever other of those top guys they pick, all left-handed. So it really makes it enticing for Ruda to slide right in, being that right-handed shot. So I would give him the nod and say that that's why like I think he's going to be such a huge part of the Sharks team next year. Honestly, just for his defensive game alone, the fact he's right-handed, so he's going to have to eat minutes like crazy, and getting the opportunity on the power play, I think just is going to make him such a valuable player. And
Yeah,
so not only can you use him and make him a core part of your team, maybe he is 33, so it's I don't know for how many years that could go, or he just plays lights out in all these roles, and then if they do decide to trade him, his value's that much higher.
yeah, if he's getting power play one time and all of a sudden Jan Ruda puts up, 40 to 50 points, well, that's all of a sudden great trade asset as well. Um,
Yeah,
one thing
exactly.
I was one thing I was wondering with the Couture's three-team trade list, if he really wants to stay in San Jose, what do you think he does with that trade list? Do you think he, lists the three teams he'd most like to go to, and then tells them I'd rather stay here, or do you think he just, he goes to, he says, you know, Rangers, Tampa Bay, and Toronto, or like three teams that are really cap strapped that he thinks won't be able to afford him.
So, um, there's not a doubt in my mind that his three-team trade list, I would, I'm like at least, I'm 99.99 a million times percent sure that two of the teams on there would be Toronto and Buffalo. I think there are like at least two teams that he would be willing to go to, because I wouldn't ever see him in a world list, certain teams that, on the mindset of like, oh, they wouldn't want me or they wouldn't be able to get me, because we've just seen time and time again teams find a way to get the guy that they want. They find ways. Looking
Right.
at even just Pittsburgh, going out and getting Carlson, or when Vegas went out and got Jack Eichel. Teams find ways to get the guys that they want if they can. And so for him, I think he would list the, you know, just being from the area, and he loves the city of Buffalo. He's a fan of many teams there. I think Toronto and Buffalo are locks for him, and then the other team could be any other team really. So I think those would be his teams. But I think again, it's, if there was an offer, I think he would just be like, no, I just,
Yeah.
I would. I mean, if you guys pull the trigger, like, you guys have the right to. There's nothing I can do to really block it. But I think he would just be like, I just don't want to go anywhere. And I think the Sharks would honestly, I think they would honor that and be like, you know what?
Yeah.
Loyalty is huge. If our players show us loyalty, we're not creating a good environment by just turning and, um, you know,
Flipping those
not
guys
fulfilling
when
their
they want to
wishes. And
stay.
yeah, exactly. If you've got a guy that's your captain and been there for years and years on end, and still, in my opinion, one of the best playoff performers in the league, I don't think you can just turn your back on. Like, I think as bad as this contract is right now, I think you gotta just honor that and be like, you know what, you want to be here, you'll stay here.
Right. And just for our listeners, once the regular season starts, we'll probably, because I mean, this whole conversation started based off of Krejci's retirement. Once the regular season starts, we'll definitely be trying to keep on task more and talk more about current stuff. We kind of let ourselves go on these tangents more because there's not a lot of news going on in the off season. So,
Yeah,
right
we
now
got
we're just kind of
time
stream of
right
consciousness a
now,
bit.
so yeah.
Yeah.
And then really just the last thing I think that's gone on the last week's time, before we kind of get into the goalie rankings and a couple other fun stuff. Jeff Petrie going to Detroit, and this is one we talked about. We didn't know, whether or not Montreal was going to, keep him around, and he could be a valuable piece for them moving forward, or if they would flip him right away or at the deadline. Then there we go. They pulled the trigger and shipped him off to Detroit, who, is looking for right-handed defensemen. So, and they got their guy that, I think now you run, I'm assuming, Seider and Petrie. Like, that's a really good 1-2 punch for defensemen on their power play.
Yeah, and he's really going to boost the 5-on-5 depth that they've got on defense. Because since Wallman came out of nowhere and was really good with Seider last year, I literally earlier today rewatched that clip. It showed up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, "Oh, I'm watching that again."
Yeah.
Oh man, that clip is so funny the one announcer is just so excited for it. He like as they show replays, he just keeps hyping up the celly instead of the goal to the point where the second commentator starts to clearly get annoyed with him.
You know what?
It's really
It's
good.
sick though. Like honestly,
It was
can you
sick.
just sit there and like just talk about it for days on end? It was so good.
Yeah. But yeah, him coming out of nowhere and being a great pairing with Sider opens up Petrie on the second defensive pair possibly, and that's really good depth to add on the blue line there. I know a lot of people were saying that this season the Senators, the Sabres, and the Red Wings are all looking to break into the playoffs. In my mind, I was kind of like, I definitely see the Sabres and the Senators, but I feel like I always felt like the Red Wings were another year away. But after some of the off-season moves they've made, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they at least challenged for it.
Uh, I disagree.
I think they'll be
I
challenging for
really
it. I don't
disagree.
think they'll get there.
I think
I think the Atlantic's too strong. I think the whole Eastern Conference really
yeah,
is too strong right
well,
now. But
and not only that, like I really like what for the most part because I made it very clear how I felt about bringing in JT Comp for when you've got Andrew Comp. You basically got twins. But I love them bringing in David Perron the year prior.
yeah,
I really like getting DeBrincat in there and having him locked in on a good deal. Klim Kostin, I like. Daniel Sprong was a really good signing. I don't know what's necessarily going to happen with him, given the allegations going at him right now. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen there, but their defense is
yeah,
just it's bad. Like it's like Sider, great first year, won the Calder and all last year, took a step back. I think the whole team did. Jeff
yeah.
Petrie, I think, is awesome, especially now getting him in at under 2.5 million. Between the
That's a good deal.
retained from Pittsburgh and Montreal, I think is awesome. But like, so that's your top two right there. Your two best defensemen are your lowest paid guys right now, because now
Yeah,
you've got Oli Mata making 3 million, Jake Wallman making 3.4, Justin Hall 3.4. Shane Gostisbehere,
I don't
4.125.
know about that. I don't know about that Justin Hall contract.
And then Ben Chirot, 4.75. Like looking at it realistically, you're rolling, I'm assuming Sider first, Petrie, then Hall. So you're paying a third pairing guy 3.4. On the left side, you probably go, I'm assuming Wallman, then Chirot, then Gostisbehere. Your second highest paid guy making 4.125. So, like, two of your three highest paid defensemen are probably going to be your bottom pairing guys.
Yeah,
I'm assuming, and it's but then even but then you've got guys like William Wallander, I think is how you pronounce it, and then Simone Edvinsson, both guys who are kind of ready to be in the NHL and stuff next year. So you throw those guys in. Well, now, like, you can't really have Gostisbehere as a healthy scratch you just signed. So do you have Oli Mata making 3 million? I can maybe Ben Chirot at 4.75. Like, do you have them now as healthy scratches or?
I think that doesn't necessarily hurt them as much as it might a lot of other teams at the moment. I'm not sure how much term some of those contracts have and if it will in the future. But right now, some of their best players, like you said, Insider and Raymond, are both still on their ELC. And
That's 1 year.
Yeah. So that'll keep it down for now. I don't know how many of those expensive defensive contracts are
Gostisbehere is the
expiring
only
this
one up
year.
next year. He signed
Rest of
just
them
a
are beyond
1 year
that?
deal. Hall has 3 years. Wallman has 3. Chirot has 3. And then Petrie and Mata each have 2.
Yeah. So if if they think they can capture some magic this year, this would definitely be the year to do it, or they're going to have to after this year, once they have to re-sign those guys, they're going to have to completely restructure their defense.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing I was thinking of a couple of days ago when I started just kind of looking at their team after the DeBrincat trade. And I was like, man, like this was, just because now Larkin's big deal is kicked in, and then the big ones of, assuming Raymond and Sider can, get back to what we know they can do. Last year I still believe is just a minor setback for them. They're still young players, lots of time.
Yeah,
But
a lot of players have the
deals-
sophomore slump.
Yeah, and with their deals, coming up next year, especially if they come back and come back strong next year, they're in for some good pay raises. And I think this was just really a year where they had to give themselves a strong opportunity to kind of make a push with these guys, making, their entry level money. So I think they're going to be in a tough spot. I think they're really going to have to try and work some magic, maybe moving out some of those defensemen next year, clear up some cap space. But I will say I am excited to watch them next year and see what they can do. But I just don't see them, in the final 10 games of the season. I don't see them being a team we're looking at in the playoff race.
Yeah, I think they won't fall out of it until midway through March. I think they'll be, it'll at least look like it's possible for them to compete for the vast majority of the season. But I definitely wouldn't put money on it.
Yeah.
Unless maybe they get some really good goaltending, because they still have Ville Husso, correct?
Yeah, and it is also worth noting with them. I'm just pulling up the clause here. So they do have Boston's first round pick for next year. It is a top 10 protected pick. I just saw that. And then, oh, okay, so never mind. So they only have one first round pick because the conditional pick they sent to Ottawa on the DeBrincat trade is either their first or Boston's first for next year.
Okay.
Boston, in the event Boston retain. Oh, yeah, so then they would transfer the 2012. Oh, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, so they got to send one pick to Ottawa, so they only have one first, so never mind, scratch that. But yes, they do have Husso.
Are they sending the higher pick or the lower pick? Probably the
they get the
pick.
option. Yeah, they get the option. So I'm assuming, I think as bad as Boston's center problem is now, I don't see them being a bottom 10 team.
No, I think that might actually be a really nice pick for them, because I could see them finishing, outside the playoffs, but not bottom 10. And Detroit maybe picks up an 11 or a 12 with that.
Yeah, I think Ottawa's honestly gonna get they're gonna get a top 15 pick, I think, in the draft. So that is
I don't
good
see a
value
way where
for them.
Boston and Detroit make the playoffs. I don't see any world where that happens.
No.
But then again, I also put money last year on the Bruins missing the playoffs, and they had the best regular season of all time. So, I can't exactly tell the future.
Yeah, and I will even say, they brought in James Reimer as their backup. That is, just watching him in San Jose for years, I was a big fan of him. I think the issue was always just the workload. And I think that was even an issue we saw before, with Toronto, and then, a couple of the other teams he went to afterwards. I think he's very good as long as you use him correctly. I think you got to keep him at, 35 games or less. I really think you could do a Husso plays 2 and then a Reimer plays 1, and you could run with that for the season. I think that is honestly a very solid goaltending tandem. And I think you can get the most. You can get the most out of both of your guys there. So, I like that for Detroit, but the defense just really, really worries me.
Yeah. Do you know how much James Reimer signed for in Detroit?
Just 1 year at 1.5.
Okay, 1.5. Because I was gonna say I would have absolutely loved Tampa to pick up with Brian Elliott. I don't believe he's announced his retirement, but I don't think he's got a contract yet. And I would have absolutely loved him to be a backup for Vasi. Uh, I was
Yeah,
I was kind of expecting them San Jose to trade Reimer at the deadline last year because he was having a pretty solid season on a team so low down in the standings. I
well,
was
they
I was
did
expecting a team to
try.
pick him up.
They did try. I think it really just came down to they just couldn't make a deal work. Like I don't
Yeah,
think it's due to lack of trying, or I think it's just at the end of the day they're just out of the teams interested. There just wasn't a trade that made sense at all. So or that could be made. So I think he did have a bit of a higher cap hit last year with the Sharks. Um, but yeah, it would have been nice to see him get an opportunity to go to a playoff team last year, and hopefully he can put together something good with Detroit, and maybe now 1.5 is pretty reasonable, so maybe he can find himself on a contending team looking to fill up a backup role or something, going for a playoff push.
yeah, and I don't think you had anything else written down before the goalie list, correct?
Yeah, no, I got nothing else. I'm blank.
I just want to. There's not much to talk about with it, but just a quick congrats to Cale Makar, the next NHL EA Sports NHL
Yeah,
cover athlete.
woo woo.
Nice to see it not be a Toronto player this time, I guess.
Yeah,
But
I'm honestly just glad they picked a defenseman.
yeah,
Because
I mean,
man,
makes
like it's
sense.
been it's
He's
like
a face of the league
always
going forward.
yeah, like it's always been forwards lately. I honestly I really want to see a goalie cover again. Like I really
Uh,
do.
I was hoping
So
for it so
bad.
bad at right after Vasi won the Conn Smythe, and we
Yeah.
had our back-to-back cups. I was really hoping that
So if
Vasi would get it.
say next year for the next NHL game they do a goalie for the cover, who do you think they would pick?
I think it would. There's a really good chance it would be Vasi, just because he's getting to that point where he's almost got that Carey Price effect around the league of just like he is. Unless people have a different opinion, he is a very default answer for who is the best goalie. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't. They like with Kale McCarr and stuff. They love promoting the young guys, the next generation. So I would not be surprised if it was a Sorokin or a Shesterkin.
Yeah, I think if they did it, I think it would be Shesterkin. Um
Yeah,
and
they
I think
love that
really,
Rangers logo on the
I
front.
was gonna say, I really think, honestly, I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I think even if you had Sorokin on the Rangers, I think it would be him then. Like, I really think it's got a lot, but at least between those two, I think it got a lot to do with what logo is going to be there on the cover.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a large reason why
that would be my
in their
pick. Would
back-to-back
be
years Tampa never
Shesterkin.
got anyone on the cover. I
Yeah,
think I think they just don't see as a team from Florida being the fun, sexy idea to put on the cover of your game. That's why Toronto had Matthews on the cover like 2 years in a row or whatever, or 2 times in 3 years or whatever it was.
yeah,
Um, I would not be shocked in the least if next year, unless Bedard has like an insane breakout season, I would not be surprised at all if it was Jack Hughes.
yeah, yeah. That actually, yeah, that would be a very good pick.
I
Um,
think I think he's gonna be in a lot of NHL advertisements going forward.
yeah,
He is fun. He's young. He's exciting to watch.
yeah. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I was really hoping we were getting a goal on the cover because it would have been 10 years since we got Brodeur on the cover of NHL 14. Probably still, in my opinion, the best NHL game we've gotten from EA Sports. Like that one was peak. But
I think
just
14
really
was really
next
good,
year.
if I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, but they kind of blend together over
Yeah,
time.
because 14 was like the very end of it was at least like the last all in they went on NHL game for the now it's the really old consoles like the PS3 and Xbox 360. Because for NHL 15, like they did have the classic version for those consoles, but they really put all their focus in. Actually, I think 15 was honestly just updated rosters and basically just a complete copy and
Yeah.
paste of 14.
Yeah,
Because
it
the
was
attention
it
went
was very
to
similar.
NHL 15 and the next gen consoles that came out. So yeah, and then we never even at the end of the Xbox One and the PS4, like we didn't get that final like fully published good just game that we got before with NHL 14. I don't even know what the last one was, like maybe NHL 21, 20, I don't know, something like that. But we never got that same final game that was just complete and was just perfect.
Yeah.
But fuck, I want a goalie. It would have been so nice to have a goalie get on the cover again.
Yeah,
Almost
I'd love
makes
to see
sense.
Vasi on there. Did other than Brodeur, do you know of any other goalies that had been on? Like, did Lundqvist ever get on? Did Carey Price?
Um,
Like, I feel like Carey Price might have, but I don't remember that far back.
um, I wanted for some reason. It's probably not true. I don't think it's real, but in my head, for some reason, I recall seeing Nabokov on a cover. So Kirk McLean was on NHL 95. He was kind of in there with Alex Kovalev. NHL 97, we got John Van Beesbrook. So those ones were pretty close together. And these are all just like just the EA Sports. Like this isn't 2K at all.
Right.
Because we're not focusing on 2K right now, even though the old 2K games were sick.
They were great. I wonder. Yeah, I think a guy like Jack Hughes is most likely to get it next year, unless a big name wins the cup. You know, if Edmonton wins the cup, it's probably gonna be either McDavid or McDavid and Draisaitl on the cover holding the cup, or if the Penguins win it, it'll probably be Carlson, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang all holding the cup or something like that.
Yeah. Who? Okay, quiz time. Who? Do you remember who was on the cover of NHL 09?
09. God, that is
11 was
ago.
11 was Taves and 10 was Kane.
09. Well, you're telling me that it's Taves and Kane, so is it like...
No, it's got nothing to do with the Blackhawks. I was
like
just letting you know in case you thought it might be those guys. Yeah, no, I was just too. I don't know if those guys were coming to mind at all.
God, I mean, what was happening in 08? I mean, Ovechkin just had a nuts year in 08, but I don't know if they're kept going off the 07 season. So maybe it was like Solani with the Ducks.
No.
I don't know, Ginla.
And NHL 07 was Ovi. LeCavier was 06. Eric Staal was 08. You ready for NHL 09?
I'm trying. I can't even think of like a grind. I don't know. Chris Gratton.
He's wearing the Flaming Sea.
The Flaming Sea. Is it Damon Langkow?
It's Dion Phaneuf.
Oh my god! I thought you were gonna say
that's
it was
such
Damon
a bizarre one. Like I get it, like he was elite back then, but like just scrolling through, I'm just like, fuck, man. Like just comparing all the guys on the covers around him, like
Yeah.
Stamkos, Taves, Kane, and then Eric Stahl, Ovechkin, LeCavalier. Like, I'm just like, fuck. It's just
A who's
he's kind of
who
the
of
odd
Hall of
one out.
Famers, or people at the least in the Hall of Very Good, as people call it.
Yeah.
That's like when
But
you're looking at the Calder winners. It's like superstar, 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 Steve Mason. Like
yeah. So
there's just
to go
those
back to
outliers.
what started the whole thing here. So really only twice since what was the first one I said? NHL
Was it
and
94? Did you say
91.
95?
So we've only ever
91.
gotten
I didn't even know
two,
there's games
two
that early.
we've only ever gotten two covers that actually feature just a goalie. Like there's a couple in the early 90s that had like it was like an action shot with like a couple players and a goalie, but like to
Like
have
a
just
guy
the
taking a
goalie be
shot.
like yeah, exactly. So to have the goalie be like just the focal point was Van Beesbrook in 97, and then we didn't have anything until Brodeur in 14. So really only twice as a goalie had the sole cover. So for all we know, could be a little while longer before we get a goalie again on the cover.
I'm gonna need to see these goalies step it up. Maybe if Jake Ottinger strings together a few good years or something, they'll throw him on there.
Okay, I'm going to send you some right now.
There's a lot of good young goalies in the league, which is nice to see because I remember about 3 years ago, it was all the old guard was just retiring and it was a bit of a wasteland.
Yeah. So before we move on to the defensemen or the goalie rankings here that everybody's been waiting for, I'm going to send you something quickly here. I'm just because this thing I'm looking at just shows all the NHL covers and whatnot. This is crazy. Like I know it's like now 10 years ago, but like that does not look like Giroux on the cover of the game. Like I can't see Giroux in that.
Not even close.
Like I know it was a little while ago, but I'm just like, man, looking at all these other ones, Stamkos, Taves,
am I crazy,
Kane,
or does that look more
even
like Couture
Phaneuf,
or Couturier?
Couturier. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right?
Like it doesn't look exactly like him, but it looks a lot more like him than it does Giroux.
Yeah,
Like that's not even the same face shape.
like all these, everybody else just looks the same, identical to what they look now. That's just it does not look like Giroux one bit. It's crazy. But hey, that's what Philadelphia does to a guy. That's what Gritty does. Speaking of Gritty, Grimace. Did you ever try Grimace shake when they were out?
I did not. I didn't
either. It bugs me.
Maybe they'll do them again next year. Maybe they'll just start doing it every year.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm not going to say where. Just because the place already has a bad enough rep as it is. But so it was like a week after. Honestly, it was probably a week after the Grimace Shake came out. Where I live, there's a McDonald's, or at least where I live half the year. The McDonald's that's like just down the street from where I was.
Yeah.
That I went to, that like if I was ever to go to one, like that was always the one I went to. It was like a week after the Grimace Shake came out, and they have like a little shed just out behind.
Yeah. I think you already
their place.
You did tell me about this at one point.
Yeah, and they just found a body in it, which is like super sad. But it's like it was just you can just imagine the stream of comments online after that news comes out just after the Grimace Shake, and that was already the running joke about the Grimace Shake.
Yeah.
But anyways,
those like
that was so off topic.
Great.
That was so off topic.
I just had this idea like right now live. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. Don't know if this is gonna come to anything, but we just made a Twitter and a Instagram account for the podcast, and maybe we'll make a special episode that like we'll post on a Monday or an extra day or something, and it'll just be us recording recording like a bunch of shorts in a row or something that we'll then post on there.
Yeah.
We can just, even if it's, it's like, even if it's similar to the quiz style that we do, but just like a lot more fast and off the cuff.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sweet.
It'll be like one of those videos where the guy runs up and it's just, for $1, name a woman, and the guy starts freaking out. I'll just run up to you with a camera and a mic and be like, name 3 left wingers.
Fuck, 3 left wingers: Robertson, Panarin, Kaprizov. Boom.
You got lucky.
There we go. Yo, when you actually get put on the spot like that, it actually is tough.
Well, that's why it's so funny, because when they run up to people and they're like, they say something as obvious as name a woman, or sometimes they'll be like say a word that begins with the letter T, and they just like can't do it. It just like stun locks your brain when somebody runs up with a mic or something.
Pterodactyl. Okay.
Taking a drink.
All of that aside, goalies. We're just gonna do 32-1, starting at 32. For anyone who didn't listen last time, do you want to just give them the breakdown of what this is?
Yeah. So we got a list here made by u/homicidal penguin on Reddit. They posted on the hockey subreddit, and basically it goes on, and so he did centers, wingers, defensemen, which we covered last episode, and then this time we're going to cover goalies, and he also did one for GMs and coaches that we might get to this or next week. But you'd go on there to answer who you think is better, and it would basically come up with 2 of them. It would come up with Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. And so you would just click on who you think is better. And then it would go to the next one, and it would just show up with 2 goalies, and you'd click who's better. And you can do this infinitely. There's no limit on the voting. And it just calculates over everyone's voting who has the highest percentage of being picked.
Yeah.
And so each of these got around anywhere from 60 to 90,000 votes. So there's obviously not that many voters, but there's still probably a decent amount to get that many. I don't know how many people are psycho enough to put in like 30,000 votes on their own. But so this is not the end-all be-all list, but it's a decent indicator of where people think these players rank.
Yeah.
It's also just like, it's very blanket. Like it's who is the best. So, it might be, who has been. When I voted, I did it based on who I think's been the best over the past 3 seasons, because I think consistency is important. But,
yes, some
people might just go off their last year. So, maybe a lot of people just voted Ullmark every single time he came up because he was incredible for Boston last year. But some people might not.
So once we get to the top 10, I've actually put down how I would rank them, and I'm curious to see.
Oh, you did some homework.
Yeah, I want to see how they match up. I want to see. I'm probably going to get like, I bet I'm going to say right now, before we get into it, I'm going to get 3. I bet I get 3 right.
You're going to get 3 of the top 10 right, or like in the
right position. Yeah, in the right position. Yeah.
I was going to say, I would hope you'd get at least like, I don't know, 7 or 8 of the same answers. But in the right order, it's probably a lot harder. I know for a fact that there's some of them that you would disagree with, just going off of what I think you would put some guys at. But the top 5 is pretty predictable, at least for who's there.
Yeah. I think I've got the top 5 right. I just don't know what spots they're going to be in.
Yeah. I think I had very close to the same rankings, but I think a lot of other people were, at least a loud amount of people were disagreeing.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. So we're starting at 32, right? We didn't want to go through the whole 64.
Well, I mean, we can go with 60. Honestly, fuck it. Yeah, let's just do coaches and GMs next time. We'll let that one build now. Let's just do goalies from the very beginning, because I'm curious to see what teams have like both their goalies like below the 32.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was doing this, there was a decent amount of names that I just like either didn't recognize at all, or at least didn't know what team they were on at this point.
Okay.
But number 64, definitely I would not put him this low.
Oh, who's the bottom of the barrel?
After this
Jordan
past season,
Binnington.
I definitely get why.
Jordan Binnington. He did not get 64.
But Jordan Binnington is a lot lower than he probably should be, because I assume a lot of people just spite didn't pick him, which is kind of hilarious.
All right, I'm curious who this is at the very bottom.
Wait, 63 is Brian Elliott. Who do you think placed below him?
Well, it's got to be. I feel like it's got to be a young goalie with like no sample size.
You would be wrong. It's Cal Peterson.
Oh, holy shit. He was supposed to be the face of the LA Kings in that. Now he's literally the bottom of the barrel. I feel like that's not fair to him. I'm not going to dive to him because like this is already 64, but like I think it's recency bias, and I think a lot of people are taking his contract into account. I guess
he got sent down to the minors at one point throughout the season because who was it? Was it Phoenix Copley?
Yeah,
came up and kind of took his spot.
Like if Peterson was making like $1 million, teams would be all over him. I think.
Yeah,
it's just his contract.
He's not the only goalie that is fairly low down on the list. Mostly probably because of their contract.
Yeah, Jordan Binnington.
But anyway, so yeah, like I said, 63 Brian Elliott, 62 Charlie Lindgren.
Okay.
61 Alex Stalock, 60 Connor Ingram.
Yeah.
59 Martin Jones.
Yeah, fuck, he had a fall from grace, man. Damn, he was sick in his heyday, but like that, I mean, that is fair. Like I love Martin Jones, but like that is fair to put him there.
Yeah. And it being fair to put him there is why I thought it was so crazy a couple episodes ago when we did the trivia on the goalies in the past, like, what was it? The past 6 or 7 years with the most wins.
Yeah.
And he was up there. Like,
yeah, he had a fall.
He was racking them in
He had a fall,
San Jose.
man. He's going to be in the AHL next year.
Didn't he have a bit of a resurgence last year? Like, he wasn't great last year.
So he did. But, like, it was only for, like, 8 games. And then he still had to play, like, another 20 before any of the other guys got healthy, and he just got, like, ragged.
Just getting
like,
shelled.
He got put through it, yeah. We got time. I'm curious now. What I'm gonna look up what his final numbers actually were. I got him right here. Because he started off actually pretty good. I was like, damn, it's so good to see him get back. And I'm like, fuck, here he is. He's back. So he played 48 games, which is his most
amount of games
played in a season.
Numbers.
That's the most he's played since the 2018-19 season, where he played 62 with the Sharks. He went 27, 13, and 3. So actually pretty decent. 3 shutouts, a 2.95 goals against, and an 887 save percentage.
Oh, 887. I thought he posted at least a 900.
So it's like when you put him in, you knew you were going to win like 2 out of 3 games, but it was going to be like a 5-4 win, a 6-4 win, a 4-3, 5-3, whatever. Like you knew it was going to be, you were going to have to really outscore your opponent.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
And that's not what you want to be thinking when you put a goalie in the net.
Yeah.
A guy
so I love Martin Jones.
48 games.
Yeah. Probably going to be in the AHL next year.
Probably off the list next year. 58 James Reimer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you do it like 2-3 years ago. He's probably maybe a bit higher when he, at least his first year with the Sharks, he actually was pretty good given what was in front of him. But yeah, last year he struggled. So that is fair to put him there.
57 Chris Drieger.
Yeah, I think that one's just, again, recency bias due to him being injured.
Yeah, I was I definitely saw some talent when he was in Florida. I was disappointed when he didn't do too much in Seattle at
Well,
the start.
I was
I'm
pissed
hoping he
off
can bounce back.
because it was that was basically like a shoe-in from the moment the Kraken were like a thing. It was like they're gonna get Chris Drieger now. Like Florida's got Bobrovsky, and they have to protect him because of his clause. And it's like they also got Spencer Knight coming up, so it's like Drieger is gone. And I thought he was going to be the starter for Seattle and do great. And then in free agency, they signed Grubauer. And it was just like, well, shit, now Drieger's a backup. Like, he can't be a starter because it's obviously Grubauer because they're paying him the big boy money and whatnot.
Yeah, he
And
came off
then,
of a Vezina finalist year that year.
yeah, and then Drieger got injured last year, came back, went down to the AHL. I don't know if it's because he was still just wasn't fully healthy, or I believe it was Joey Decord was the guy who was just playing out of his mind. But Seattle's AHL team went all the way to the finals and lost in Game 7 actually. And Drieger was the backup; like he wasn't even the starter for their AHL team in the playoffs.
Oh
Um,
man.
so yeah, he's really kind of taken a fall just over the last 12 months alone.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can see him bounce back though.
How are we doing for time on the episode? Do we
We're
want to
not. We're doing
speed
pretty
through
good
to
actually.
maybe at least until like 32? Like would
Yeah,
not
just start
completely
kind of
speed through,
rapid
but
firing them.
yeah, rattle off a couple, and then we'll talk about once we get to each team's bona fide starters, we can go
Yeah,
more in depth.
yeah,
So 56, Scott Wedgwood.
yep,
55, Phoenix Copley. So we've already got
yeah.
two Kings on there.
Well,
Uh,
oh, I guess yeah. Well, I don't know. What do they do? Never mind. Yeah.
uh, 54, Matt Murray.
Wow,
That's
another fall from grace. Him and Jones
yeah,
battling it out. 2016 Cup Finals. Now they're fucking
yeah, wow.
shitters on the same team. Shitters together. Both good
And he's
guys.
not, and he put up decent numbers this year, I believe. He just didn't play enough games because he was
Yeah,
so injured. I think he played
yeah.
around
Always,
20.
yeah. Like dude's just always injured, which is tough.
Yeah. 53, Kevin Lankinen.
Okay,
52, Peter Mrazek.
bit
51,
high for
Dan
him.
Vladar.
Wow, poor Vladar
Yeah, I think
got
I think
shafted.
he could make the argument to move
It's
up a
because he
little
plays
bit.
on Calgary. Let's be real
But
though.
yeah, they
It's
got
because he plays for Calgary.
their luck was just abysmal this
Like
past year.
Jeremy
Like all the
Swayman's
stats said
probably
they
in the
should be
top
decent.
20.
Yeah.
And Vladar could have easily put up the same numbers as Swayman on that Boston team last year. That's crazy. Damn, poor
Uh,
guy.
just cracking the top 50, Casey DeSmith.
All right, newest Montreal Canadian.
49, Akira Schmid.
Could go up next year. Could go down.
Yeah, he had a really good playoffs, didn't he?
Yeah,
At
for the
least in
most
the
part.
first
When they
round.
won, he was on, but when they lost, like it was, you could blame him.
He was getting chilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. 48, Sam Montembeau.
All right.
47, Mackenzie Blackwood.
Yeah, that's crazy. He's above Capo Kakinen. That's nuts. That's crazy.
I don't see him on Kakinen on here, but then again,
Oh
I'm doing
shit!
this
He
on.
didn't
I'm
even
not
make the
scrolling. Do not.
list.
I'm doing this on screenshot, so he might be higher
I,
up.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's not even in top 64.
40. What did I do? Blackwood. 46, Alex Nedeljkovic.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair
Man,
for him.
I was part of the people that I thought Stevie Y fleeced the Hurricanes by getting a goalie who in his rookie year put up numbers like that for a third round pick, and he has just not done anything close to that since.
Yeah. Yeah, and
45.
just 27 now. He's Like, man, the opportunity's kind of
Yeah.
gone. It almost feels like, which is tough. But he's
Yeah.
with Pittsburgh. He'll be a backup next year, so maybe he can throw together something. Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Who knows? It's Pittsburgh's definitely had goalies with injury issues in the past almost decade at this point. So
Yeah, should have kept Fleury.
45, Yaroslav Halak.
Okay.
Halak. 44, Jonathan Quick.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
43, Laurent Brossois.
Yeah. All right. I don't
There
really
it is.
have any issues about these rankings.
42, Capo Kakkonen.
Damn, dude. Dude, he fleeced people. That's
He's
crazy.
cracked.
He should not be that high. Like, I usually
Yeah.
give goalies benefits of doubt. It's like, man, they're on a shit team, but it's like
It
he
depends what goals are
really
going
like.
in. Like,
And I'm a big goalie guy. Like any goalies I have so much respect for, and like I just love them. But with him, it's just like he doesn't give anything for me to want to rally behind him and whatnot. Like I had high hopes for him at first, but I'm just like, man, like give me 35-year-old James Reimer.
the rhyme minister of defense.
Yeah, literally, dude. The Sharks are fucked. They don't have the right minister of defense back there.
That is such a top tier nickname.
That is, but that is so high for Kakkonen, but good for him.
Yeah. 41, Anton Forsberg. And
Wow.
for the top 40 here, this is where you start seeing names that are often either starters or like guys that are like very genuinely good. Like these guys, I don't see too many of them falling straight out of the league anytime soon, unless some of them are a bit older, injury prone.
Yeah.
But number 40, Pyotr Kochetkov.
Okay, good for him.
He has a very small sample size, but I am surprised to see him that low because he had incredible stats this past year, didn't he? Like, wasn't he like
Yeah.
fairly close to top of the league in shutouts, even though he only played like 20 to 30 games?
I honestly
Like, I'm pretty sure he still had like 4 or 5 shutouts.
I can look it up. Actually, fun fact. He is one of the pieces technically that Carolina got in the Jeff Skinner trade when they sent Skinner to Buffalo. One of those picks was used on him. So there's a fun fact. He got 4 shutouts last year.
Yeah, 4 shutouts. How many games played?
24.
Yeah,
So
4 shutouts in 24 games. Like that's
for every 6 games he was getting a shutout pretty much.
yeah, that's pretty damn good.
Pretty good.
I mean, like we said with Nedeljkovic, maybe that's just a benefit of playing in Carolina because they do have an incredibly stacked blue line. But still.
And good defensive forwards even.
Yeah. 39, Jake Allen.
All right.
38, Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
37, Cam Talbot.
Okay. Yeah.
36. Who do you think's 36?
36. Varlamov. Oh wow, shit. That was bad. That was a bad guess. That was a fucking bad guess.
Jordan
Holy
Binnington.
shit.
36.
Yeah. Fuck, I should have guessed. Yeah, fuck. That's high though for him. That's high.
Is it outside the top 32? That if every team
Good,
got to a
as he should
redraft
be.
of all the goalies, he wouldn't be a starter.
Who's St. Luce's other goalie?
I don't even know. I don't know why they traded Husso for this guy.
Like, I'm trying to think.
Instead of
Is
this
there
guy,
a possibility that St. Luce's other goalie got ranked higher than Binnington? Who's the other goalie? Malcolm Subban. Maybe he's not even on the list.
I was gonna say I haven't seen him yet, but I mean,
Never mind. Okay, so
it's,
Bennington, all right. A little high, but it's not terrible in
uh,
that slot.
35, Devin Levi.
Wow, good for him. Probably going to go up, but come next year.
34, Pavel Francouz.
Yeah,
Francouz.
Francouz, I think.
Suze. 33, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
That's a little high.
Yeah, it's definitely. Could definitely see it going up later in his career, but
I think
probably a bit
Levi
high
will be
right now.
higher next year.
Yeah, probably. But I think they're gonna have to move uh, Luukkonen just because
Yeah,
I think he definitely could be a starter somewhere.
yeah, I do see him getting moved. I honestly wouldn't be surprised come the trade deadline next year if he goes to San Jose. Like the goalie carousel is just never ending there.
Yeah. The next, I would say all three of these next guys in the top 32 are too low, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe not number 32 just because of the year he just had, but I believe he's better than that.
Okay.
So 32, Elvis Merzlikins.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay.
I definitely think he's better than that, but I mean,
Yeah.
on Columbus, he just got demolished this past year.
Exactly right.
It was rough there. 31, Karel Vejmelka.
Too low.
I would have him top 20.
Yeah.
I would say
I'd have him
easily.
like I'd probably have him
Possibly
like
around the
the
15 mark.
17, I would say.
Yeah.
I put him right around there. In between 15 and 20, I think. Because
I
again, just too small of a sample size, but like in that sample size, it is pretty dang good considering what team he's on, the numbers he put up. Like,
yeah. Every once in a
that's too
while, I
low.
would tune into an Arizona game, and he would just be getting shelled every time. And he would be, if it was ever a close game, he was like, it was either him or Clayton Keller keeping them in it. Like,
Yeah.
he was stealing them games. I'm surprised they didn't trade him just because he was single-handedly tanking their chances at getting Bedard.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, like, you've got a goalie that's got some skill that wants to be in Arizona. I don't think you can afford to trade him.
That's very true.
You
I think
got
a
to
lot of
ride with the
people
guys that want to be
overestimate.
there.
I think a lot of people overestimate that a bit. I think there's a larger than people think amount of guys that do want to play in Arizona.
I agree.
Whether that's because it's Arizona and it's just a good spot to live, or the org is entirely up for debate. But I do think I think there's less people putting it on their no trade list than the internet would have you believe.
Yeah, I would agree.
Number
We just
30.
saw Matt Dumba willingly go there. Like it was only a
Yeah.
1 year deal, but still, like, you know, a guy that kind of should be in the prime of his career had a bit of a step back, like still decide to go there. Like Clayton Keller, one of the best young players in the league, is committed to staying there. Like people want to be there. So, but Vejmelka should be higher.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
30, Ville Husso.
Yeah, I'd have him a little higher. I'd have him like right around 20, I think.
Yeah, 20 to 25. 29, Spencer Knight.
Okay, that's not terrible. I'd maybe have him a little bit lower,
Yeah.
just because he was kind of supposed to be the guy, and then
he hasn't quite put it together yet. But goalies can take longer to
yeah,
develop.
exactly. But like, I'm not like outraged by him being there because he is very good.
Yeah.
And could very well be Florida's number one guy again next year. Like, it is a possibility.
Just a quick glance up the list. I don't see anybody at this point that I would argue like should not be in the top 30.
Okay.
Like these guys are all at the very least pretty good. But 28, Vitek Vanacek.
Yeah.
27, Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
26, Logan Thompson.
Oh, okay.
That one's interesting.
Yeah.
25, Philip Grubauer.
Crew. Yeah.
Good for him for bringing it back because man, that
Yeah.
first season in Seattle, it looked like he was just going to fall off a cliff and just like disappear out of the NHL in a season.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. It was
nice to
really
see that
starting to look
he's
like he always just was one of those guys that benefited from a good team in front of him. So it was good to see that, he proved he can kind of carry the weight load for the team when need be.
24, Antti Ranta.
Oh, okay.
23, Tristan Jarry.
Wow. I didn't think Jari's going to be that low. I was going to be
You
more
thought
around
he
the
would you thought
15.
he'd be higher up.
Yeah, I thought he'd be kind of around the 15 spot. Wow. Okay.
I wonder if there's a decent amount of people that are still down on him from his playoffs
Maybe.
performance
Yeah. Yeah, that is
2 years
true.
ago. Because I know a lot of people were really annoyed at him then, but yeah, he's
Yeah.
been pretty consistent whenever
Yeah.
he's been able to stay healthy. 22, Semyon Varlamov.
Well, that's a good spot. I don't hate that one.
21, Philip Gustafson.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
He,
around where I would put him just because,
yeah,
I think come
it's a
next year,
small sample size, but
yeah.
he was really good in those games. He was
And it's
stealing
tough
games for
to,
them.
and that's the thing is like, as good as he's playing, it's hard to run with him for the most part when you've got Flurry there that you brought in and whatnot. So, I mean, 2 years time, like he could, if he keeps kind of going the path he's on, like we could be mentioning him in the top 10 conversation. Like I think he's got that much just skill right now and potential and upside that like he, if he keeps going the way he's going, he could easily start to get up into that top 10.
Yeah. These screenshots were taken. I took them one of the other days when we were recording, I think. But they're taken about an hour later, so I was just looking at my phone and I thought it was way later.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was almost 1 o'clock. I was like, what the hell? 20 is Aiden Hill.
Okay. Well, obviously recency bias there.
Yeah, but not unearned.
No, no, definitely not.
19, Jonas Corposalo.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little bit high for me, but I
Yeah, I
wouldn't put him
mean,
too much lower.
yeah, he's in that area. Yeah, you can make the argument for bumping him down a couple. But it's not terrible to
18,
have him in that area at least.
no. 18, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Okay, there he is. Yeah, that's a good spot for Fleury.
Yeah.
I think
Now
just
we're
because
getting
again,
into
it's just
the
not getting that high sample size, so he's not like a true number one carrying all the weight load. So
yeah. I feel like there's a huge shift from 18 to 17. Just like the past three guys we've named, Fleury, Corposalo, and Hill, to the next three.
okay.
17, Carter Hart.
Oh shit. Okay.
16, Darcy Kemper.
Oh shit. Okay. Wow.
And 15, Alexander Gorgiev.
Wow. Shit. Okay.
Yeah, it really feels like it goes from a lot of guys that are kind of the 1B or the 1A on teams to the bona fide starters real quick there.
Yeah.
14, Jacob Markstrom.
March number 14. Oh wow. Okay.
He's still holding on to some of his street cred. Good for him. I really hope he bounces back because my God, it was just gut wrenching to watch him at times last year. He'd play so good, and then he'd let a goal in with 5 seconds left, and it would just like ruin his play the rest of the game. Or
Yeah.
he would let the goal in on the first shot, and it would be like a defenseman shot from the blue line, and you could just tell it was just ruining his night in, night out. Like,
Yeah.
He's clearly better. We know he's better than he played last year, so I'm hoping to see him bounce back.
Yeah.
Along with basically the entire team.
Yeah.
13, Freddie Anderson.
Wow. Shit. Okay. No fucking shot. John Gibson's in the top 10. No shot.
Well, we'll
He's
see.
in the top
We'll
10.
see. Let me know as soon as we hit any of your guys that you have in your top 10.
Well,
We're getting to the point where
that was Anderson right there.
I was
had him
gonna
at
say.
10.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was gonna say I'd probably have him right on the cusp.
Yeah, I had him at 10. So
There's
so what's the
definitely
next one?
a couple guys there that I think are a little high. Number 12, Ilya Samsonov.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, he plays for the Leafs, so I kind of expected him
Plays for the
to
Leafs.
be high up, but I'd
He had a
have
good
him,
year last year as well.
I'd have him back probably around 20. I think still.
I think I might have him a bit lower, but I'd probably have him around the.
I don't think
16,
you can
17.
put him. I don't think you can put him lower than Gustafsson or Fleury or Kemper. Or higher. Sorry. He should be lower.
I definitely have him lower than Kemper. I think I might have him higher than Fleury. Gustafsson is so hard to tell. The quality of his starts versus his games played. It's hard to rank him.
Yeah, I think that's just a little too high, but hey, I'm always open to be being proved wrong.
Number 11, just outside the top 10, Sir John Gibson.
Okay, good, because he's been so bad. Like, I know he had good years before and the Ducks were like a playoff team, but he has not been near what he used to be. So he shouldn't be in the top 10. So anywhere outside the top 10 is okay.
Because he was so good before, but the team is so insanely ass, especially on defense. It's so hard to gauge him, it's like, if he's as good as everyone says, surely he'd put up one season in his past 3 or 4 where he carries them to a couple wins. But, maybe you could argue, maybe they're a 30-win team and he is carrying them to some wins. So,
and so that was 11. So I'm just looking at it now. So I've got 9 of the top 10 in my top 10, and it bugs me because I know exactly who the other one isn't, and he shouldn't be in there.
Is it Jeremy Swayman?
Yeah, Jeremy Swayman.
Yep.
He should not be
too
top
high
10.
for my liking.
He should not be top 10.
All right. As we go, I'll give you one guess for each spot.
Okay, well, number 10 I had Frederick Anderson. But it's obviously not him. So I'm just gonna guess Swayman then.
Number 10, Thatcher Demko.
Holy fuck, Swayman is not top 9, man. This is crazy.
I don't know how you put Swayman above Demko. Demko is, man, Vancouver's got some underrated players. Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and Demko, all constantly getting underrated.
So 9 is where I had Demko. So I was off by 1. So Swayman 9?
Swayman is 9.
Okay, he is 9. Okay, so I got the top 8 right, at least. I got the right guys. Maybe not the right order. 9 is way too high for Swayman.
Yeah. And so,
that's so high.
Demko and Swayman are 10 and 9. Demko got 75.14% of the yes votes, and Swayman got 75.35. So it was pretty close.
Okay. But just a goalie that's only played 88 games in the league, I don't know how you can say he's top 9. And he's always been on a good Bruins team.
a very good Bruins team, especially in the past year. But you got a guess for number 8?
Well, and I feel like where I have Allmark is going to be wrong, because I feel like they're going to have him fucking top 3. 8, I have Bobrovsky.
8 is Sergei Bobrovsky.
Oh, okay, I got one. We're cooking.
Yep.
That's where I think he fits. So I think
that's a good spot. Personally, I think I would probably have him at 9. I think I would have Demko at.
I did flip-flop between the two of them, and I honestly just put Bobrovsky there just because of recency bias with the playoffs and whatnot. I just figured people would give him the slight advantage. But more often than not, I would put Demko above.
All right, number 7.
Seven's where I have Allmark, and I feel like he's much higher.
What's your guess then?
I'm guessing my pick is that I put down as Allmark, but I'm guessing it's going to be Jake Ottinger.
It is Linus Ullmark.
It is Allmark. Okay, so I got it right actually with my pick. I thought he was going to be a bit higher after Swayman was fucking 9.
Linus.
Yeah, holy shit. Okay, all right, I'm cooking. I got 2 in a row. Six. So 6 is where I have Ottinger.
6 is Jake Ottinger.
Okay, we're cooking. I got 3 now.
He's got his finger on the pulse of the community.
The top 5 is like where it could all fall apart, though.
You're not getting number 5.
No,
I don't think so.
damn.
But
Wow,
let's hear it.
someone's getting shafted. I have 5 is where I have UC Saros, but I think
5.
you're about to say Hellebuck.
Number 5 is Ilya Sorokin.
Holy shit, that is bad. That is bad having him at 5.
I would say it's bad, but looking at the quality of the top 5, I think the top 5 are a good jump higher than Ullmark and Ottinger. I think those 5 are on a tier of their own. And I definitely would have Sorokin probably higher than 5. I can see really any ranking in the top 5 between those guys. At least the arguments can be made.
I can see the arguments, but it just no argument can make me believe that Sorokin is not the second best goalie in the league. Potentially even the first.
Yeah.
But wow.
So
okay, I'm shocked by that. So
yeah,
5 is
I figured you weren't getting that.
So 4 is I
Number
have Hellebuck in there, but I feel like now it's probably Saros.
Number 4 is UC Saros.
Fuck. I might not get another one right.
And I just want to point out here, Ottinger, Sorokin, and Saros at 6, 5, and 4, 87.55, 87.68, and 87.75. They were all very close to each other. People are high on Ottinger, which is very fair, but
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 3 I have Shesterkin.
3 is Igor Shesterkin.
Oh shit! So I did get that one actually. So then 2 is Hellebuck and 1 is Vasilevsky. Then has to be.
Yep, Hellebuck at 2 and Vasi at number 1.
Okay, so what I got
91.25 for Shesterkin and 91.65 for Hellebuck, and then 93.89 for Vasi.
Okay, so I got 5 right. The top 5 I had Saros 5, Hellebuck 4, Shesterkin 3, and then Sorokin 2, and then Vasilevsky 1.
Yeah, I figured you would surely get the top 5 at least being the top 5.
Yeah, those two. Those 5 were easy
Sorokin
to
at 5, you wouldn't
in.
get the order right.
Yeah, fuck, that's shock. Again, I think it kind of goes back to what we said. I think if he played on the Rangers, I think he would easily be put in at that number 2 spot.
I think he just needs to play more games at this point. I think
he played the majority of the games last year.
I'm just talking career wise. Like I said, I was doing it based on a 3-year sample.
I guess,
and
yeah.
So I think I had Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, Sorokin, Shesterkin, Saros.
Okay. Which honestly, even
I'm
that
wondering if
isn't
that's
terrible.
what a lot of people did, because Hellebuck has also, just like Vasi, has been elite for minimum 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely not like. I have no complaints with Hellebuck being in at number 2. I think that is
especially
very,
on a
very
Winnipeg
fair
team that does not have a very strong defensive presence. Their blue lines, all right, but their forwards they don't have very many two-way guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a Lightning fan and a Vasi fan especially, it's very fun to see, Ottinger, Sorokin, and Saros are so close in their numbers, and then Shesterkin and Hellebuck are super close in their numbers, and then like 2.5% higher than Hellebuck. Vasi's kind of still got a bit of a lead.
Yeah, he's the clear cut guy right now.
Yeah, but people are starting to throw, names like Sorokin and Shesterkin and Saros in there. And I mean, that's the first time anyone's really challenged Vasi for best goalie in the league in the last 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, it's been a while since
it's nice to see goalies
a conversation that can be made,
drumming it up.
Yeah, which is good for the league, though. It shows like,
which is crazy.
It was they're kind of in, they were kind of in a weird spot for a couple years where it was like, Carey Price has kind of gone now. Lundqvist, Quick, like kind of those guys were like, Pecorino was the other one.
The old guard really dropped off, and it took a couple of years for any new guys to show up. I know.
It was pretty much just Hellebuck and Vasilevsky, and that was just kind of it for a couple of years. So
yeah, when Shesterkin had his incredible season 2 years ago, because I always like looking at goalies over the last couple of years. And so when people after that 1 year were saying, Shesterkin's the best goalie, I was kind of like, everybody pump the brakes for a second. There's a reason there's a reason we haven't had a 60 goal scorer 2 years in a row since like the early 90s or whatever, despite Ovechkin being insane and whatnot. Like it's hard to put up insane numbers like 2 years in a row. Like
exactly right. That was the list of the goalies. I think we're gonna save kind of been going for a little bit here. The coaches and GMs next time. Braden, anything you want to kind of add here before we sign off for this one?
No, I think I'm good. That was a fun list to look through. I was surprised reading through, going from like 32 to 20. You can, they're all on a relatively similar level. And then at one point it really shifts from, fringe backups to the 1A, 1B guys, and then to the bona fide starters.
Yeah, honestly. It was a good change between the kind of the tiers of goalies. But thanks to everybody for listening and those who support us, and we will catch you guys in the next one.